Emma Rodriguez thought she had finally found him. The one. After months of disappointing dates and empty conversations, David Miller seemed like everything she had been searching for. But what Emma did not know was that the man sitting across from her at that coffee shop, smiling with those perfect teeth, had done this before. And the women who came before her never lived to tell their stories. Emma Rodriguez was 28 years old when she moved to Austin, Texas in March of 2023. She was a graphic designer, talented and ambitious, ready to start fresh in a new city after a difficult breakup in Chicago. Her friends described her as warm, trusting, and perhaps a little too willing to see the good in people. She had spent the previous year rebuilding her confidence, attending therapy sessions, and learning to trust again after her ex-boyfriend's betrayal. Her therapist had encouraged her to put herself out there when she felt ready. Emma thought she was ready. She had downloaded several dating applications before the move, hoping to meet someone who could show her around town, and maybe, just maybe, become something more. She told her mother, Elena, that this was her fresh start, her chance to find real happiness in a city that felt full of possibilities and new beginnings. David Miller's profile appeared on her screen on a Thursday evening. 34 years old, handsome in a rugged way, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes. His profile said he worked in commercial real estate and loved hiking, cooking, and classic films. The photos showed him at scenic overlooks, at elegant restaurants, always alone, but always smiling. There was something magnetic about him, something that made Emma swipe right without hesitation. They matched instantly. Within minutes, David sent the first message. It was thoughtful, referencing something specific from Emma's profile about her love for vintage record stores. They talked for hours that night, the conversation flowing effortlessly from music to travel to childhood memories. By the time Emma went to bed at 2 a.m, she felt a flutter of excitement she had not experienced in years. Their first date was set for Saturday afternoon at a popular coffee shop in downtown Austin. Emma arrived early, nervous but hopeful. When David walked through the door, he was even more striking in person. He greeted her with a warm hug, as if they were old friends, and immediately put her at ease. They talked for 3 hours, losing track of time. David seemed genuinely interested in everything about her. He asked questions, listened intently, remembered small details. He told her about his childhood in Colorado, his love for architecture, his dream of one day designing sustainable homes. Everything he said painted a picture of a thoughtful, successful, grounded man. By the end of that first date, Emma was smitten. David suggested they meet again the next day for brunch, and she agreed without hesitation. Sunday brunch turned into a walk along Lady Bird Lake, which turned into dinner at his apartment. David cooked an impressive meal, played jazz on vinyl, and talked about his vision for the future. He spoke about wanting to settle down, about being tired of the casual dating scene, about knowing when you meet the right person. Emma felt like she was living in a dream. Over the next week, they saw each other every single day. David was attentive, romantic, and seemed completely devoted to her. He sent good morning texts, brought her favorite coffee to her apartment, planned elaborate dates. He introduced her to his favorite spots around Austin, shared stories about his life, and made her feel like the center of his universe. Emma's friends noticed the change in her. She seemed lighter, happier, constantly smiling at her phone. But there were moments, small moments, that felt slightly off. Once when Emma's phone rang during dinner, and she saw it was her ex-boyfriend calling, David's expression darkened for just a second before he smiled again. Another time, when she mentioned grabbing drinks with coworkers, he suggested maybe she should come to his place instead, implying that her coworkers might not be worth her time. When Emma posted a photo on social media, David asked her to take it down, saying he preferred to keep their relationship private until they were more serious. Each time, his requests seemed reasonable, even sweet in a protective way. Emma dismissed the tiny alarm bells ringing in the back of her mind. By the end of the second week, David told Emma he was falling in love with her. They were at his apartment, and he looked into her eyes with an intensity that took her breath away. Emma, caught up in the whirlwind romance, said she felt the same way. They spent that night together, and Emma felt certain she had found her person. What Emma did not know was that David Miller was not who he claimed to be. His real name was David Mitchell, and he had a history that would have sent her running if she had known. In Colorado, he had been investigated in connection with the disappearance of a young woman named Jessica Torres 3 years earlier. Jessica had met David on a dating application just like Emma. She had fallen for him quickly, just like Emma. And then, after 2 weeks of intense romance, Jessica vanished. Her body was found 6 months later in a remote area outside Denver. The case went cold, and David, who had been questioned but never charged, moved to a new state. In Austin, David had already made contact with 2 other women before Emma. One had broken things off after sensing something was wrong, escaping what could have been a deadly situation. The other, a woman named Rachel Kim, had gone missing 4 months before Emma arrived in town. Rachel's disappearance was still under investigation, but detectives had no leads. David, who used different names and altered his appearance slightly for each new target, had managed to stay under the radar. On Thursday, March 30th, exactly 16 days after Emma and David's first date, Emma told her best friend Melissa that something felt wrong. She called from her car parked outside a grocery store. She said David had become possessive, that he had shown up at her apartment uninvited twice that week, that he had pressured her to delete her dating applications and stop talking to male friends. Melissa urged Emma to end things immediately, to trust her instincts. Emma agreed. She said she would break up with David that evening when he came over for dinner, for that was the last time anyone heard from Emma Rodriguez alive. When Emma did not show up for work on Friday morning and did not answer her phone, her coworkers grew concerned. Melissa, remembering their conversation from the night before, immediately called the police. Officers went to Emma's apartment and found the door unlocked. Inside, everything looked normal at first glance, but there were signs of a struggle in the kitchen, a broken glass, a chair knocked over, and small drops of blood on the tile floor. Emma's body was found 36 hours later in a wooded area outside Austin, about 40 miles from her apartment. She had been strangled. Her phone, wallet, and keys were missing. The medical examiner determined she had died sometime late Thursday evening, consistent with the timeline of her planned conversation with David. Detective Sarah Chen was assigned to the case. She was a 15-year veteran of the Austin Police Department, known for her meticulous attention to detail and her ability to see patterns others missed. She had solved 18 homicide cases in her career, but something about Emma's murder felt different from the start. The scene was too clean, too organized for a crime of passion. When she reviewed Emma's phone records, which the service provider produced, she noticed the constant communication with a number registered to David Miller. The messages showed a pattern of escalating control, subtle at first, but becoming more demanding over the 16 days. She ran the name and found no criminal record in Texas. But Detective Chen had learned long ago to trust her instincts, and something about this case screamed serial offender. She spent 3 consecutive nights at her desk, searching variations of the name and cross-referencing with other jurisdictions, looking for similar patterns in unsolved cases across multiple states. Her breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on the 4th day when she found David Mitchell in Colorado. The connection to Jessica Torres's case in Denver was the break Detective Chen needed. She contacted Denver police and learned about the investigation, the suspicious circumstances, and the fact that David Mitchell had left Colorado shortly after Jessica's body was found. Chen also discovered that a woman named Rachel Kim had gone missing in Austin 4 months earlier, and witnesses had reported seeing her with a man matching David's description. Law enforcement moved quickly. They obtained surveillance footage from businesses near Emma's apartment and identified David's vehicle in the area on Thursday night. They tracked his credit card usage and found that he had purchased gas in San Antonio early Friday morning, suggesting he had fled after killing Emma. An arrest warrant was issued, and David Mitchell was located in Houston 2 days later, attempting to board a flight to Mexico using a fake identification document. When detectives searched David's apartment, they found a disturbing collection of items: photographs of Emma, Rachel, and Jessica, along with several other women who had not been reported missing. Personal belongings that appeared to be trophies from his victims. A notebook detailing his methods for meeting women, gaining their trust, and isolating them from friends and family. The notebook contained chilling entries describing each woman's vulnerabilities, their routines, and the exact moments he decided they had become too suspicious or tried to end the relationship. He had rated them, categorized them, treated their lives like a twisted game. Detective Chen later said it was the most disturbing thing she had encountered in her entire career. The evidence painted a picture of a calculated predator who used dating applications to find vulnerable targets, someone who had perfected his technique over years of practice. During interrogation, David remained calm, almost detached. He refused to speak without an attorney and showed no remorse. Forensic evidence, including Emma's blood found in his vehicle and fibers from her clothing discovered in his apartment, linked him definitively to her murder. DNA evidence connected him to Rachel Kim's case as well. Colorado authorities reopened Jessica Torres's case with renewed vigor. The trial of David Mitchell began 8 months later. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence of his guilt. Emma's friends testified about the rapid progression of the relationship and the warning signs they had noticed. Melissa broke down on the stand as she recounted her last conversation with Emma, the fear in her friend's voice, and her regret at not doing more to protect her. She described how Emma had sounded different that day, quieter, almost whispering as if afraid someone might overhear. Melissa testified that Emma had said David knew where she lived, where she worked, and had somehow accessed her email account. Emma had been scared, but also felt trapped. He worried that ending things might trigger something violent. That final phone call haunted Melissa every single day. Dating application experts explained how predators, like David, exploit the platforms to find victims, creating elaborate false personas and using psychological manipulation techniques. Psychologists testified about his narcissistic personality disorder and lack of empathy, explaining how he viewed other people not as human beings, but as objects to control and ultimately destroy when they no longer served his purposes. David's defense team attempted to argue that the evidence was circumstantial, that David had been in a relationship with Emma, but was not responsible for her death. But the jury saw through the manipulation. They heard about Jessica Torres, about Rachel Kim, and about the pattern of behavior that revealed David Mitchell for what he truly was, a serial killer who used romance as a weapon. The verdict came back unanimous, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Emma Rodriguez, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Rachel Kim. Additional charges were pending in Colorado for Jessica Torres's murder. The judge sentenced David Mitchell to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Emma's family established a foundation in her name to raise awareness about the dangers of online dating and to provide resources for recognizing warning signs of dangerous relationships. Her mother, Elena Rodriguez, became an advocate for stronger safety features on dating applications and for better training for law enforcement in identifying patterns of predatory behavior. The case of Emma Rodriguez sent shockwaves through the online dating community. It exposed how easily predators can create false identities and how quickly they can gain the trust of unsuspecting victims. Dating platforms implemented new verification systems and safety features, though advocates argued it was too little, too late for Emma and the other women who lost their lives. For those who knew Emma, the pain of her loss remains profound. She was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, full of dreams and potential. She deserved to find love, to build a career, to grow old surrounded by people who cherished her. Instead, her life was cut short by a man who saw her not as a person, but as a target. David Mitchell sits in prison today, and investigators continue to examine unsolved cases in every city where he lived. And they believe there may be more victims, more families searching for answers, more women who crossed paths with David and never came home. The investigation remains open, and detectives encourage anyone with information to come forward. The story of Emma Rodriguez serves as a haunting reminder that evil can wear a charming smile and speak in gentle words. It reminds us to trust our instincts, to listen when something feels wrong, and to never ignore the red flags that our intuition reveals. Emma's legacy lives on through the foundation that bears her name and through the countless lives that have been saved by increased awareness of predatory behavior. Her death was not in vain if it prevents even one person from falling victim to someone like David Mitchell. If this story moved you or made you think differently about safety in modern dating, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories that matter. Share this video with someone who might benefit from hearing Emma's story. Remember, awareness is the first step in prevention. Your engagement helps these important stories reach more people and potentially save lives. We cover cases like this every week, diving deep into the psychology, the investigation, and the lessons we can learn. Join our community of true crime enthusiasts who believe that understanding these cases can make us all safer. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.